Well, hello, everyone. I'm kind of sad, but also too excited that this is the end of the year. Welcome, everyone. My name is Candace Miles, but as you can see, I go by Coach C. And I am the founder and CEO of No God Consulting, where I am on a mission to empower the next generation of Black women stepping into leadership for the very first time by providing culturally relatable resources and tools for them to embrace their identity as they get into leadership. But I'm not just a leadership coach. I am also representing the millennials. And if you have been here before, you know I love a good emoji to put that peace sign in the chat if you are representing the emoji of the millennials. And on top of that, I am located over here on the West Coast in San Diego. But as you see, I'm not here by myself. I have my lovely here who is dressed in red today.
Yes, tis the season. Happy holidays, everyone. My name is Cynthia Haley, and I am the CEO, which stands for Chief Energy Officer of Transition to Infinite Possibilities, where I help corporate professionals elevate their energy so they can elevate in their careers. And we have brought back with us another guest, our guest from the last episode or last series, Wade Younger, who brings a lot of knowledge around artificial intelligence, a lot of expertise around leadership and other consulting aspects. So, Wade, I won't steal all of your thunder. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, and thanks for having me back. Wade Younger, I'm a thought leadership expert when it comes to AI, all things AI, and looking forward to having this conversation again to talk about future-proofing careers for sure.
Awesome. Candace, I'll turn it back to you to kind of tell our audience a little bit more about why we do what we do.
Yes, if this is your first time here, welcome. But lighting the torch, it is just a fireside chat where we are simply discussing and passing leadership game from one generation to the next, pretty much lighting each other's torch because we do believe that there is power in our voices, especially when it comes to different generations. But Cynthia, you about ready for
Yes.
this whole recap and these
I
questions that we
am. I
got?
am. We have gone through three fireside chat series with our overarching theme of lead forward, empowering careers for today and tomorrow. And with that, I'll just kind of hit on the three chats that we had. The first one was around navigating career transitions with confidence. The second one was around beyond the titles. Are you leading or managing? And the third one, as Wade alluded to, was future proofing your career with AI and innovation. And so before we dive into the recap, I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. And we will be addressing live questions today. This is all about having a live Q&A and being much more interactive with our audience and fielding those questions as they do come in. So feel free to drop it in the comments and we'll do our best to make sure we acknowledge it and respond to it. But as we get started, so in talking to a couple of people, there was one question that did come up for around coaching, career coaching, because that is what I specialize in. And relative to AI, the question was, how can AI help with my career transition? Help me be more confident if I'm trying to transition in my career with things like preparing for interviews or get my resume up to date. How can I tap into the AI space for that purpose? Now, I did my own little research, but of course, I'm going to start with Wade, our expert in this space, to see how you might respond to that question.
Absolutely. So with our push toward AI and using AI tools, there's a plethora of tools that you can use to ready yourself for a new job. Obviously, so the one thing that I recommend before you jump into tools is understand exactly what do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to be? Is it a full scale change for you, or is it just um, a process where you're moving forward and moving upward? But as far as just getting yourself ready for what your next step is, no matter what it is I would recommend Claude has a tool that helps you to take your resume and then also cater it toward a job description. I recommend if you're going after 30 different jobs, you should have 30 different resumes because now with the advent of ChatGPT and Claude and also Copilot, you can take your resume
Mm-hmm.
and ask it to formulate a new resume based on a particular job description. Well, every resume should fit the job description. So I would start with that. Once you get to a point where, and I want to make sure we understand this too, as it formulates your resumes, make sure you can, you fit the bill. I don't have it rely on you and you're this rocket science engineer when you're really not. So make sure it aligns with truth. Um,
Right.
so I'll pause there. I'm curious as to what you have there, Cynthia.
Well, before I dive into that, though, let's make sure people understand some people who are newer to AI tools. Can you talk a little bit more about what Claude actually is?
Absolutely, yeah. Good question there. So Chat GPT, which is by OpenAI, and then we have Claude, which is Anthropic. Those are two um, narrow AI or artificial intelligent applications that allow you to create content that did not exist before. So those applications are free, so you can go in and use those.
Mhm.
And then there's several of them. Gemini is another one from Google, and go on and so on. But they're basically generative AI, which means you can take content that you know, and it'll take
Mhm.
content that it knows and create something totally new.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So, in my little quest here, of course, I'm very familiar with ChatGPT and, creating the right level of a prompt to redefine that resume. And one of the guiding principles that I've also incorporated when I'm redoing a resume is what's the job description? What is it that you're going after to ensure that resume matches up, right?
Mhm,
And entering prompts aligned with that job description as well.
mhm,
So taking what you currently have in your resume, that job description, and trying to merge the two, while also being cognizant of the ATS systems that a lot of companies are using with HR. HR is using artificial intelligence as well. So just being cognizant of those things. But in a simple search, because I'm familiar with ChatGPT, but there were two other AI tools that came up, and I'm curious to know if you've heard of them. One was Job Scan,
mhm,
and the other was Resume AI,
mhm. Yep.
minus the E.
Yes. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I haven't used it, but hey, those are two tools that did come up around optimizing your resume.
Absolutely. So what happens in this case, and I'm glad you brought that up. So I'll use Amazon for an example.
Mhm.
Amazon is very adroit, and they're well known for using AI tools to analyze resumes that are coming in. Because with the job market now after COVID, it's crazy to predict. So people
Right.
are applying for so many things that they qualify or not qualified for. So one of the things I want to recommend or understand is AI understands AI. So if you just decide to be lazy and take your resume and just have like an application just rewrite it for you based on job description, fine, it'll look great. But if you just leave it as is, there are other AI applications that say, hey, this is actually an AI generated resume. Trust
Mm.
and verify. So watch out for that.
Tis true. It's almost like in college, right? Where you have professors now are saying, don't try to write your paper with Chat GPT, because
Yeah,
they
for
will be
sure.
able to assess it and determine that it's not authentic, right?
Absolutely.
Or original, I should say. Candace, do you have anything else on this, on the whole resume, interview prep, things of that nature?
I don't have anything on that. I just, since we are talking about Chat GPT and the prompts and everything like that, I know Forbes just came out this week with an article about Chat GPT prompts to make you feel unstoppable at work.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I thought it was very
Mm.
interesting where
Hmm.
they literally took like a situation and said, well, basically, like, how could I motivate this person?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very detailed, it was almost like a paragraph. And I feel like with
Mm-hmm.
the chat prompts, they were very quick when they first came out, and now it's getting a little bit more granular, so you can get the response that you're needing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to say that, because when I was reading it, it made me think about not this topic particularly, but
Mm-hmm.
conflict at work. That's something that I hear a lot of times, is like, I don't know how to handle a challenge at work. How would you say, Wade, when it comes to AI, how someone could use that to help them with coaching?
Gotcha. So before we go to that, I want to come back to how AI can help you with the interview process. So I'm going to come back to that in a
Mm-hmm.
minute, and on that. But as
Mm,
far as coaching is concerned and conflict is concerned, um, we can go down the list of just several different apps to help you with. But what you want to understand is AI will never be a substitute for HI, human intelligence. So, as a
Right.
human, we understand the climate of a conflict, we understand where it originated from. And once we understand, like, the antecedents of this is where it starts, we can start to decompose whatever the problem is and then allow AI to feed you information based on specifically those things. As we talk about using AI, this is why prompt engineering right now, even though I do say it's going to go away in the future, but not tomorrow, it's good to understand questioning. Going through having a detailed conversation, and when you do, you can ask a long dissertation type question, but I recommend just take it in pieces. Just have a streaming
Mm-hmm.
consciousness is okay. This is for, let's use coaching for an example. We have a person that's been here for 7 years and they were a high performer. And then all of a sudden they're petering out. Why is that the case? Well, what do you know about that individual? Was there a death, divorce, some health issues?
Right.
mm,
Those are things that AI doesn't know. So, but that's some things that you could have that conversation with. And then based on what you know, HI, you can help with using AI tools. But I want to get away from, and as we move on toward more technology, because, and I'm working with AI use cases all the time, and people are ready to, that's like, what can it do for us? And we have that question. But I want to continue to purport that we need analytical skills, we need holistic skills, we need critical thinking for it to really
Right.
take root for us.
mm.
Absolutely. But and you were gonna because I want to come back to even that, but so
Yeah,
much to unpack.
I know.
Um, but with the interview piece, what were you gonna say on the interview prep piece with AI?
Yeah, so there is a plethora of chatbots out there now that will
Mm.
have a conversation with you based on the job. You can also talk about, what you're nervous about. What are you unsure about? Are you having imposter syndrome? So you can have those conversations. But particularly, Anthropic, I'm going to use going back to Claude,
Mhm.
Sonic 3.5, in, specifically because it has an ability to reason somewhat. And as
Mhm.
you have that conversation, reasoning out why you want this job, how you think you can be successful, it'll kind of feed back to you. Here's some questions that will unpack who you are and what your strengths and transferable skill sets are. So
Mhm.
when you're starting to use those applications, so I'm Anthropic is one, and it's Willow, Willo, is another great chatbot where you got an interview set up, you got the job description,
Hmm.
you can ask it, give me a list of questions I can anticipate based on this job description, and how can I augment it into my experience? And that helps you with some answering
Hmm.
as far as practice is concerned.
See me
So with
taking notes.
so with like ChatGPT, like pulling information from the web. So to kind of piggyback on that, for it to anticipate the questions that's going to be asked, will it be able to recognize, those normal questions that you normally hear? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses?
Mhm.
Like, provide them with a little bit more. I guess, a way for them to be able to speak to that. But does it capture like those traditional questions for them to
Yeah,
anticipate with it?
yeah, absolutely. So if you can look at it as a picture, and a picture has the frame, so it'll frame out your career first, what you've been doing, what you'd like to do. There's your frame. Strengths, weaknesses. Those are the table stakes these days. But what it does is, because everyone is using the tool, not everyone, but a lot of people are using the AI tool. It gives a more in-depth look at the job based on, let's, for example, I don't want to call anybody out. Let's say Capital One that just came to me because my credit card bill came out. Capital One comes in, and there's a job that you want. So you can have this conversation. We will use Willow for an example. This is a job description that I have. This is my resume that I've enhanced with AI, ChatGPT or whatever help.
Hmm.
Based on that, let's look at the website. We're going to ask our tools to look at the website, scan it, and based on everything that you know, give me a list of questions that I can anticipate. That's not of the norm, because that's the whole thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah.
the differentiator, and it provides that for you.
Right. Because most companies now are crafting their own set of behavioral
Mhm.
questions,
Mhm.
um, centered around their culture and values, things that are important to
Mhm.
them, and crafting their behavioral questions around that. So if the chat tool can have better intelligence around that organization,
Mhm.
it can then provide or produce questions that are more relative to the company and the role.
Yeah, and if you want to go
Right.
another level, if you know who you're interviewing with, as in the hiring manager, it wouldn't hurt to do a little research about
Oh,
them as well. And you would do that anyway,
Ooh.
I
but
was like,
based
yeah.
on say,
Mm.
based on the research, what can I talk about? Oh, they used to play college softball. We got a chance to ask that,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature.
Mhm.
Any advantage you can get, because again, 300,000 jobs will be eliminated. 133 will be created. 33 million will be created.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just competing with next door. We're competing globally at this point.
Right,
Mhm.
right. So, kind of getting back to something you were saying earlier. So, our second Fireside Chat series was titled Beyond the Titles and Are You Leading or Managing? And there's that element of emotional intelligence meets artificial intelligence. And you spoke about the HI, and how it's important not to lose it. Maybe talk a little bit more about this theme and how the two can come together without losing each other, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So when it comes to human intelligence, and also your EQ or IQ,
Mm-hmm.
it's a matter
Mhm.
of reading the room, full stop. So if you're able to have conversations with people, and we're talking from a leadership perspective here.
Right.
Let's say if you have a
Mhm.
team of 10 or 10,000, whoever your direct reports are, we have to understand what needs to be accomplished as an organization, because we're here to support organization, unless it's your organization. Either way, you're supporting. So that's number one. Understanding the value proposition of that. After that, understand what obstacles are taking place right now, whether it's ethically, whether it's culturally,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's just the environment of active shooters, what's
Right.
really happening that creates trepidation. And then at
Mhm.
that point, people come to work with all of that, and they try to be
Mm-hmm.
productive. But it's a matter of understanding where people are coming from, and then meeting where they are. Now, where does AI come into all of that? Because we can do that. That's not technology. Where technology will help us is in a matter of making things easier, simpler, where our people understand the vision of where we're moving forward to. The big thing that we notice, and we see it in our everyday life in coming to work, is this: we all have some type of streaming service. With most people have streaming services, whether it's Netflix or Hulu or whatever. We all have those things, and then within that, it has watched your behavior, our viewing behavior. We all have it.
Mm-hmm.
Based on that viewing behavior, it uses AI and algorithm to say, hey, here's some recommendations based on your behavior. So if we understand that, We understand how technology can help us, because as we observe behaviors of teams
Mhm.
and groups, and they're trying to grasp this uncertain time of AI, let's make it, let's unpack it, let's demystify
Right.
it, and say, okay, this is what we can do to succeed. And the beautiful thing about AI, it just helps us to do things faster, so that we can
Hmm.
spend more time with people and problems versus um, just the just concentrate on just what's in front of us. So if people feel like they're valued and are seen, everybody's better off, no one worse off.
I like it. I like it. When we were talking about leading versus managing, also, we talked about how to make a compelling story. The art of storytelling is a big topic right now in leadership. And
Mhm.
when you make that shift from managing a process to actually leading in an organization, it's important to learn how to master the art of storytelling and leveraging data to do that as well. And so, thinking about a leader trying now to incorporate AI into their leadership style. They've mastered the art of storytelling, but the traditional way, right?
Mhm.
How might that now be reshaped? And how could it look and feel different with the insertion of AI?
That's a great question. I really like that question. Um, the attention span that we had, let's say 20 years ago, when there was more farmers, it was, in the minutes,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you could just sit and listen and take in and process. Because of microwaves and TikTok, our attention span is 9 seconds. So
Right.
people don't want to read, and
Mhm.
so what they rather see is to tell the story is videos, graphics,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mhm.
we take the page from Sesame Street. There was this documentary, a brilliant documentary on Sesame Street, on what made it so popular and effective, because I was raised on
Mm-hmm.
Sesame Street. And it was just a matter
Same.
of what you see now is just short clips, make the point, repeat the point, keep it moving. So as
Yes.
far as leadership is concerned, no one is interested in a 20, 30-minute dissertation. We're
Right.
not.
No thesis and no 30-minute,
No,
30
No,
page PowerPoint.
no.
no.
Even though AI, most AIs will create your PowerPoint slides for you. Keep it
Mm-hmm.
pithy, keep it relevant, keep it moving.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Mhm.
So, one of the other things we talked about, I feel like with the going from leadership to manager was really a strong topic, that we went through with that
Yeah,
one.
for
And
sure.
oftentimes, when someone's new in leadership, they've been promoted because they were the subject matter expert,
Hmm.
right? And I feel like I'm rehashing this topic, but I'm bringing it up again because many organizations, including the one I'm with, is reinforcing AI, right? If you are leading in a space, you need to be much more strategic and weaving in AI. Now you have this new manager who knows how to process the widgets.
Hmm.
They've now been promoted and have to make that shift into leadership. Um, we talk kind of real big and grandiose when we're thinking about AI, but something very tactical and tangible that a new leader listening to this conversation can take away and go back and sound like they're shining like a diamond with their leadership team, right? Like,
Yes,
oh, they pulled
Mhm.
something new out of it.
yes.
What could that, one thing be? And I know I'm rehashing it, but I'm doing that on purpose, right? Because of the second thing you said about repeat. And when we hear things over and over again, it starts to resonate and you can start to apply it.
Hmm.
So,
Mhm.
thinking about this new leader who's shifting from a subject matter expert, that tactical or tangible thing that they can do with AI to really show up as a top performer and strong leader, what would it be?
Here's a good use case for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we're trying to get people on board as far as AI is concerned, Again, we talked about the trepidation and the uncertainty, and at the same time, you want to stay ahead of the curve as the leader, the boss, because you did good. This is what I recommend specifically. Number one, understand your ideation. And ideation is, I have an idea, and it's just an idea. It hasn't been
Mm-hmm.
proven yet, but this is something that we would like to consider. As you, and this is part of storytelling, as you
Mhm.
explain your ideation, what you're talking about here is, this is the end result of it. This is how people will benefit. This is how you will benefit from it. I don't know
Mhm.
all the ins and outs yet, but this is a thought. As we start to talk about that ideation, get a good consensus in regards to, I think that's a good idea, and who knows, you may be surprised and, hey, that's a great idea.
Right.
Let's
Mm-hmm.
go with that. So from
Mhm.
there, we have a lot of use cases for ideas that we thought weren't good. So after there's an ideation discussion as far as the idea is concerned, it doesn't have to be from crib to fruition, but it just starts the process. The next
Mhm.
want to go into is an explore phase. And the explore is, okay, this is a conversation that we had. We think it could work. And then you start to look at things like a potential ROI, how long will it take, a cost benefit
Mhm.
analysis, and then get some more buy-in from more leadership, because it's a matter of benefiting that department or that entire organization. So you go from ideation to explore. Now you says, okay, this is a great idea. If we can move forward, there's this development taking place. Now you can build it or buy it, or however you're going to build or buy. The development
Mhm.
phrase talks into how you can augment it into your jobs, augment it into the company, be the differentiator as far as expectations are concerned, and a competitive advantage for your customer. And this is the story that you're telling now. Once it's in develop, and this will take months at this point, you want
Right.
to
Mm-hmm.
go into whatever pilot. And when I talk about piloting, and a lot of our use cases have to be a pilot, start
Yes.
small. Always start small. And if it works, again, create parameters to see, based on what we hope for, we're getting that or we're not getting that.
Right.
It's cut bait. And then after that piece of piloting, once you get the ROI that you talked about months prior, all of a sudden you can scale it and you're moving forward. So as far as telling that story, that's a that's a stage gate approach on how I would tell the story. That way, no one feels intimidated. It makes sense. You completely broke it down versus, okay, I know how to benefit, and you go on from there. Am I answering that question?
Somewhat.
So, yeah, because it
So,
sounds similar to like what, like if you have some years underneath your belt, like you understand, okay, it goes from idea to this and this. And I think the hiccup sometimes, especially getting to new leadership, shifting that mindset from a SME to a leader is, okay, I had this great idea, and then it stops there. Like
Mm-hmm.
you may
mhm.
get to the second phase of it, but it still stops. It never gets all the way to the end,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, okay, well, I know how to do this as a SME, but this
Mm-hmm.
is what I've been doing. Now I'm building a new muscle. So I think in essence of that question, it's like, okay, that in between ideation and explore, like what is something that AI could come in and to help them get over that hump.
Gotcha.
So,
Seeing is believing. You respect it when you can inspect it. Um,
yes.
so that's a matter of finding tools, smaller tools that could do something similar to it, and that's called market scanning, where you can find things that you might not want to buy that product, but you want to buy a product like that for
Mhm.
benchmarking. So I would recommend just going and finding smaller tools, but continue to be the band leader. Don't give up just because people are uncertain. And once you learn how to deal with ambiguity and uncertainty, you move forward. And this is the effect that will have. Have you ever bought a car? Maybe it's not brand new, but it's new to you. Let's say if it's a green Pinto, and you're riding around in your green Pinto. What do you start to notice around town? My goodness, everybody got the same green Pinto I bought. So, so, so that's called psychosis. Psychosis is a mental blindness where once something is brought to your attention to look out for, all of a sudden you see it everywhere. So when
Yeah.
it comes to AI and tooling, you just say, you know what, this is something to consider. And all of a sudden, after telling that story, it's like, okay, I want to hear more. But
So, so in case we were curious if people were paying attention, the green pinto would definitely wake you up, make you more alert.
right.
But you know what? I'll interject into that because most people are becoming much more comfortable with Chat GPT, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you are a new leader and you are crafting this story, you're going in to pitch this idea, right?
Hmm.
What a subject matter expert manager coming into leadership is accustomed with is they're accustomed to running a report, right? They're
Hmm.
accustomed to running a Tableau report to show how they performed and how many widgets they processed, whatever service level they might have hit, right?
Hmm. Yep.
They're accustomed with saying, oh, I've got 10 people and, their average call handle time has gone down and we're meeting our service levels. They're comfortable telling that story, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
They also have this bright idea on how they can improve handle time or improve the service that they're providing to a client.
Hmm.
I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like where AI can come into play or they could be that beacon of light in their organization to show how AI can help improve productivity is taking what they know, right? They know these reports out of Tableau or whatever their
Right.
reporting mechanism is,
Right.
and they know that um, they have these 10 employees that are working, 50 hours a week because with overtime and this, that, and the third to just meet the service levels.
Hmm.
Taking that data, telling the story, and then talking to this AI tool to say, here's the idea that I have based on these tenants, right? These numbers, this data. Help me to bring this idea to fruition with a business proposal that would improve productivity, right? And increase ROI. And I feel like that is where you now shift from manager to leader because you take what you know and what you're comfortable with
Hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
integrate it into this technology to help you formulate the pitch, I'll call it, that you can now
Mm-hmm.
take to your leader.
Yeah. Yeah, because you even saying that, it just made me think about like the seasonality that each industry
Mhm.
goes through.
Yep.
Um, Particularly retail right now. We know this is a high, especially here in the States, it's very high when it comes to
Mhm.
customer, but you always see the staffing always low,
Yeah.
Right.
you know.
Mhm.
And so I think that's where, too, to your point, where as a new leader, if they were coming in to pitch this idea of how we can make sure, how far in advance do we need to start hiring, because
Right.
what do we need to hire in order to keep people, even if it's seasonal,
Right.
Right.
when it comes to that. But I can see where you're going from, to help that SME turn from managing a task to now I'm a leader. Like
Yep.
I'm starting to build this real leader skill set.
Absolutely. So I know we're over because the three of us could probably keep going and going and going on this topic because we're definitely passionate about the work that we do and the
Right.
services that we offer to our clients. But we are at time. And I do want to thank those that joined in for this three-part series who have engaged as well. And I think you want to chime in their way.
Yeah. So one final thing to both you all's point. How do you go from worker leader to manager? Keep this in
Mm-hmm.
mind, and this is the key here. Really quickly, there are some parameters that you want to make sure you have um, as you're using AI tools, whether it's career based or getting your company from point A to point B. We're always looking to be first, best, or different,
Mm-hmm.
faster, cheaper, or better. We want to be able to save time, save money, make money, relieve stress, make
Right.
things easier, and make sure your customer feels good about what you're doing. Knowledge
Mhm.
servicing, patterns, and then content, fresh content. That's where we are.
Absolutely. And the one thing, look, I'll add to that that I actually stumbled upon a little bit more this week is the caution, especially if you're using information for your company,
Mhm.
being mindful of the legalities around it,
Yeah.
and sharing proprietary information in these chatbots or these different AI
Mhm.
tools, because it can pose legal ramifications if you're putting sensitive information into AI tools. So
Yeah.
that's my disclaimer. As you are transitioning from manager to leader, be very conscious about the information that you put into an outside platform.
Mhm.
But nevertheless, we are at time. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Candace, any last words? We're getting ready to light our torches before we go. You want to kick us off?
Sure. Anyone that is listening, I hope you have enjoyed because I know this is our last one for the year. Hope you have enjoyed, especially the series. But what I would say is that as you are going into the new year, one, go back. I'm gonna do a little plug. Go back and listen to our last few series. But most importantly, take whatever it is that any of us have said, whether it's Cynthia, whether it's myself, whether it's Wade, take whatever we have said and make it your own. Never try
Mm-hmm.
to mimic anyone else because that's when imposter syndrome comes through. The
Mhm.
series really is about you becoming who you are supposed to be. And by doing that is by just taking where we lit your torch and you let your torch be brighter as you go to wherever your destination is.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Love it. Wade, we'll come to you.
My thought is to rethink everything, rethink what you really want to do, what you want to accomplish, what job you want, rethink it all. And once you do that, pin it. And then that's when, I mean, since we've been talking about AI, that's where it can help you. But more than anything else, make sure whatever you're choosing is your choice. You're riding your ride, and you're doing exactly what you would like to do. But that's my message.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, Rochelle, for the feedback and compliment from Facebook. I will share a very common phrase, which is getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mm.
And, we talked a lot about navigating your career, about, your own brand, about networking, about using new technology, um, and things that you may not even be comfortable with. But you've reached a point where you know you need something different. You know you want to pursue something different. You know that you want to grow within your career. You're being challenged to develop. So, my lighting the torch moment is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Try some of the things that we've shared with you in this three-part series, in this live Q&A, and then let us know how it worked. We'll be
Mhm.
coming back in January with more of this series, and we hope that you join us. And who knows, Wade might be a guest periodically because AI is really booming. Um, but in all sincerity, Wade, we thank you. We thank you
Yes.
for joining us in part three and for this live Q&A. We value your input, and if you haven't started following him already, please do so. Explore his work, explore how he can help you and your organization, and
Mhm.
continue to follow us along on this journey. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful
Yes.
evening and happy holidays.
Happy holidays and happy new year.
Happy New Year.